Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And we are going to be getting back to the list of the people murdered because they were disabled by those who are closest to them. Before we get into that, though, we're going to give you a trigger warning. We'll go through the usual disclaimers, okay? You have to kind of mentally prepare yourself between these videos. Get a chance to calm down a little bit. Alright, okay. Trigger warning. What we are going through right now are the lists of the names of men, women, children, elderly people who were murdered due to their disability or mental health issues. These individuals were murdered by their caregivers, parents, siblings, and significant others. You are going to hear about who they are, how old they were when they were murdered, how they died. Which means some of these are going to be incredibly graphic descriptions and definitely not recommended if you have young children. In the description box, you're going to find the link to this page, the disabilitymemorial.org, that we visit every year to read through the names of the people who have been murdered. We also include the link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Center, who has caused 6 deaths of young students, don't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share on all your social media. We also have linked in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding folks in case the JRC has the balls to see through with their threat. We also have linked to the Ozarks First article in regards to Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri, that has, and counting, over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it. All of these have been substantiated by the hard evidence gathered by the Missouri Department of Social Services, yes, including ER documents in case anybody is wondering. These include sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor who's still on the premises up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have Attorney General too busy persecuting innocent drag queens who like to dress as Mother Goose to actually protect any of the kids out here from proven pedophiles. You've got a governor who's lost his nuts, so please read that article and share on all your social media. Got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shots campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, alright? Now that's when we discuss the JRC. But Though we will mention them, this is primarily about something different this week. I simply mention them because we are going to bring up the 6 deaths of the young children whose blood lays on their hands. Because we are going to be talking about these murders, just a trigger warning for parents. Please. We are going to be discussing the brutal murders of people. There's going to be some very vivid, disturbing details that are going to be read. If your child is 16 and younger, and they are watching this, at the very least, parental supervision is advised. Now we're going to go off to where we left off in the list. You may see me cry, or let's be honest, try to not cry. Alright? While we go through this, so be prepared for that. Especially for this next one. Braylon Hines, Fort Wayne, Indiana, USA. Age of 2. Murdered May 1st, 2022. Disability, cystic fibrosis. Cause of death, untreated cystic fibrosis. Braylon was found dead by paramedics to her parents' home, where Braylon and her siblings had been living in poor conditions. Braylon had not been getting treatment for her cystic fibrosis. Without treatment, she had been found unconscious on the floor and could not be revived. The family was known to Children's Services and had received instructions on how to properly care for Braylon. Braylon liked to play with her siblings and watch Coco Melon and Super JoJo, and her favorite foods were pizza and Starbucks. Her cousin was her best friend. She loved her 2 kittens, Yoda and Lucy. Case status: Madison Conley, mother, charged with neglect of a dependent resulting in death, neglect of a dependent resulting in serious bodily injury, neglect of a dependent. Brian Hines, charged with neglect of a dependent resulting in death, neglect of a dependent resulting in serious bodily injury, and neglect of a dependent. M.E., Albuquerque, New Mexico, USA. Age 16. Day of death, May 3rd, 2022. Disability, blind, nonverbal. Cause of death, malnutrition. This 16-year-old girl, known only by her initials as M.E., was brought to the hospital in full cardiac arrest, very underweight and poorly cared for. Police said her mother had been leaving her in the case of her minor siblings, and that she had died from medical neglect and malnutrition. Case status: Doralia Loria Espinoza, mother, charged with reckless child abuse. Harvey Baker, Topeka, Kansas, USA, aged 74. Day of death, March the 5th, 2022. Cause of death, blunt trauma. Disability, PTSD. Harvey was found dead from severe blunt trauma, and police arrested his girlfriend with whom he lived on suspicion of murder. Harvey's daughter told police that she suspected Harvey's girlfriend had been abusing him. Harvey was a veteran of the Vietnam War who had been awarded the Silver Star for saving 2 of his comrades under enemy fire. He enjoyed fishing, riding, cooking soul food, and playing with his grandchildren. Case status: Vicki Lee Shelton, girlfriend, charged with first-degree murder. Gertie Duncan, Leesburg, North Carolina, USA, aged 79. Day of death, May 9th, 2022. Age at death, again 79. Disability, dementia. Gertie's husband shot her dead, called the police, shot himself, and was taken to the hospital where he died the next day. Jerry Duncan, deceased. Carla Jacobs, West Point, Illinois, USA, aged 74. May 9th, 2022. Disability, neurological disorder. Carla was shot by her husband in a murder-suicide. Carla was a church member who worked for Motorola and Methode Electronics. Gary Duncan, husband, deceased. Two-year-old girl, Davenport, Florida, USA, May the 10th, 2022. Cause of death, malnutrition. Disability, failure to thrive. Possible muscular dystrophy. Possible cystic fibrosis. This girl, 2 months short of 3 years old, died, weighed 9 pounds, with no food in her stomach. Although the doctors were worried about both cystic fibrosis and muscular dystrophy at her 6-month checkup, her parents allegedly did not take her to the doctor until they found her dead. Regis Johnson, father, charged with neglected child abuse causing great harm. Alondra Tillman, mother, charged with negligent child abuse causing great harm. Frank Robertson, uncle, charged with neglect child abuse causing great harm. Sarah Latimer, Sparta, Wisconsin, USA, aged 32, May 10th, 2022. Cause of death, blunt head trauma. Disability, stroke. Sarah was beaten to death, and her boyfriend, who had previously been convicted of charges related to domestic abuse against Sarah, was charged with her murder. Sean Hawk, boyfriend, charged with first-degree intentional homicide, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, and drug charges. Forgive me if I butcher this. Kalaliko Ranjini from Gandhigar, Gujarat, India, age 55, May 12, 2022. Age 55, cause of death, strangle. Disability, paralysis. When Ranjini's husband told the police that she had died, her neighbors urged the police to investigate. When they found marks on their neck, they questioned the husband. Police say he confessed to strangling her because he could not bear her suffering. Musaswamy, husband, arrested on suspicion of murder. Sharon Mook, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, USA, aged 82, March 15th, 2022. Cause of death, stabbing. Disability, nursing home resident. Sharon's husband stabbed her to death in her nursing home. Dan Mook, husband, charged with first-degree murder, third-degree unlawful possession of a weapon, and fourth-degree possession of a weapon for unlawful purpose. Jamie Ward, Greenville, Wisconsin, USA, aged 50. May 18th, 2022. Cause of death, throat cut. Disability, chronic pain, degenerative disc disease. Jamie's body was found in her home with her husband. He reportedly told the police he had killed Jamie because she asked him to kill her. But news articles make no mention of a suicide note or any indication that she had wanted to die. Police described the incident as domestic violence homicide. Braden Ward, husband, pleaded guilty to first-degree reckless homicide, sentenced to 12 years in prison and 8 years on extended supervision. Eli Hart, Mound, Minnesota, USA, age 6. May 20th, 2022. Cause of death, gunshot. Disability Towns-Brock syndrome. Eli was found dead in the trunk of his mother's car, having been shot with a shotgun. Eli liked to play with matchbox cars and wanted to be a firefighter when he grew up. He recently learned how to fish and had such a talent for it that he caught more fish on his first day than his father, who owns a bait shop and had been fishing all his life. Case status: Julissa Thaler, mother, charged with second-degree murder. Imagine that poor father. Can you imagine? Pankaj Binyar, Uttar Pradesh, India. Age 22, May 23rd, 2022. Cause of death, throat cut. Disability, intellectual disability. Pankaj's brother allegedly cut his throat and tried to burn his body. Police say he confessed to the crime during interrogation. A shocked brother arrested on suspicion of murder. Unknown woman, Icheon, South Korea. She was in her 30s. May the 23rd, 2022. Cause of death, sleeping pill overdose. Disability, cerebral palsy. This woman's mother allegedly poisoned her with sleeping pills. Her mother charged with murder. Kimberly Bridges, Fairbanks, Alaska, USA, aged 65, May the 25th, 2022. Cause of death, gunshot. Disability, depression. When Kimberly went missing, her husband told police she had left him. Months later, when her body was found in the wilderness, having been shot in the head, her husband told the police that she had depression and had asked him to kill her. Robert Bridges' husband charged with murder. Hina, Apuza, Kerala, India, aged 42, May 26, 2022. Cause of death, strangulation, head injury. Disability, bipolar disorder. Hina had recently married, and her husband, a traditional healer, was angry that her family was not providing him more dowry payments. During an argument, he became violent and choked her, slamming her head against the wall and killing her. Investigators discovered that her husband had been harassing her family for money because she had been mentally ill from childhood, and he believed he deserved a higher dowry. You didn't deserve nothing, you bastard. Demanding dowries for marriage is illegal in India, and doing so is often associated with domestic abuse, suicide, and sometimes, in this case, murder. Case status: Apukantan husband pleaded guilty to murder. Hugh Dewey, Port Arthur, Texas, USA. 3 years old. 3 years old. May the 31st, 2022. Malnutrition is the cause. Disability, Down syndrome, suspected autism. King was found dead in his home, weighing only 19 pounds. Police said he had been locked in a closet for some time. Case status: Tina Lewis, mother, charged with injury to a child. Kristen Lewis, charged with injury to a child. J. Lewin Javon Lewis, wanted for injury to a child. Joanne Harris, Trussville, Alabama, USA, aged 82, June the 1st, 2022. Cause of death, beaten. Disability, dementia. Joanne's husband reportedly called his son and said he was going to kill his wife and himself. The son called the police, and after a standoff that lasted a few hours, Joanne's husband shot himself in the face, though superficially enough that he was able to walk out of the house and was then hospitalized. Police found Joanne's body in the house. J.B. Harris' husband charged with murder. Leela Gopalan, Vadakara, Kerala, India, aged 55, June 6, 2022. Cause of death strangled. Disability cancer. Leela's husband strangled her and hanged himself. Case stated Mithil Gopalan, husband deceased. Luis Benitez, Posadas Misiones, Argentina, aged 38, June the 12th, 2022. Cause of death, head trauma. Disability, schizophrenia, anemia, breathing problems. Lewis lived with his sister and her husband, who did not want him to leave the house. One night when he tried to do so, his brother-in-law allegedly slammed his head against the doorway. Lewis was found dead in his home for the next day. Case status: Pedro Walter, brother-in-law, arrested on suspicion of murder. Donna Mayfield, Overland Park, Kansas, USA, 87 years old, June the 23rd, 2022. Cause of death, shooting. Disability, disabled, elder, bedridden. Donna was shot by her husband, who then killed himself. Frank Mayfield, husband deceased. John Hoover, Hickson, Tennessee, USA, aged 44, June the 29th, 2022. Cause of death, malnutrition. Disability, intellectual disability. John was taken to the hospital, severely malnourished and with pressure sores on his body. A week later, he died. Neighbors said John had been rummaging in the trash and asking for food. Allegedly, his parents withheld to force him to take showers and tied him to the bed at night to keep him from taking food. John Hoover, father, charged with felony murder and aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult. Jacqueline Hoover, mother, charged with felony murder and aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult. "72-year-old man, Brooklyn, New York, USA, June the 30th, 2022. Head injury is cause of death. Unknown disability. This 72-year-old man was found dead from a head injury, allegedly after a fight with his 60-year-old cousin with whom he lived. His cousin arrested. Catherine Sokolich, Baldwin, Missouri, USA, aged 63, July the 3rd, 2022. Catherine's brother, who was her court-appointed guardian responsible for taking care of her, allegedly beat her because he was frustrated with taking care of her. She was hospitalized and later died of a brain bleed due to head trauma. Anthony Sokolich, brother guardian, charged with first-degree assault. Charges likely to be upgraded due to Catherine's death. Pamela Gregory, Clarendon, Jamaica, aged 67, July the 4th, 2022. Throat cut. Disability, bedridden. Pamela's grandson found her dead with a knife wound to her neck. Pamela's husband, who allegedly also attacked her grandson when he found her, was arrested and charged with her murder. Thaddeus Gregory, husband, charged with murder. Timothy Ferguson, Norton Shores, Michigan, USA, aged 15, July the 6th, 2022. Cause of death, malnutrition, hypothermia. Special needs. Timothy died from a combination of starvation and hypothermia. Police said his mother had been feeding him very little, often just bread soaked in hot sauce, and been forcing him to take ice baths. Shonda Wanda Ark, mother, charged with murder and first-degree child abuse. Paul Ferguson, brother, charged with child abuse. Kedris Maddox, Kirksville, Tennessee, USA, aged 13, July 6, 2022. Disability, cerebral palsy. Cause of death, unspecified. When Kadaris was found dead in his home, paramedics saw the conditions he had been living in. His mother was arrested. Kadaris' grandmother remembers his eyes as rays of sunshine. She said Kadaris was always on the go and loved everything. Case status: Cheyenne Dawn Maddox, mother, charged with murder, child abuse, neglect, and endangerment of Kadaris, as well as abuse of her other 5 children. Gabrielle Rowe, Druzy, Oregon, USA, age 16, July 7th, 2022. Cause of death, gunshot. Disability, Down syndrome. Gabrielle and her mother, who lived in Iowa, disappeared after going on what was supposed to be a camping trip. A search that lasted several days eventually turned up their bodies in their van in Oregon. Gabrielle's mother had shot her and herself. Donna Rowe, mother, deceased. Annette Boyle, Charleston, South Carolina, USA, aged 83, July 9th, 2022. Cause of death, traumatic injury. Disability, unspecified, nursing home resident. Annette was found unresponsive at her nursing home and declared dead shortly thereafter. A relative was arrested on suspicion of having killed her. Henry Galvin, family member, charged with murder. Michael Logston, Glasgow, Kentucky, USA, aged 75, July 9th, 2022. Cause of death, hypoxia. Disability, ALS. Michael died when his BiPAP was turned off. He was unable to breathe without it. Michael was passionate about technology, especially space travel and electric cars. Case status: Leanne Burnett, daughter, charged with murder. Donna Logston, wife, charged with murder. Gulabi Kirkeda, Alipurduar, West Bengal, India, aged 23, July 11th, 2022. Cause of death, beaten. Intellectual disability, death. Gulabi's brother allegedly beat her to death because she couldn't make it to the toilet and had an accident in her room. Ajit Kirkada, brother, charged with murder. Prakash Thakur, Bilaspur, Shadagar, India, age 26, July 12, 2022. Cause of death, head injury. Location, Bilaspur, Shadagar, India. Disability, death. Prakash and his cousin were drinking together when his cousin became angry at him and allegedly killed him by hitting him in the head with a rock. Pradeep Thakur, cousin, arrested. Dominic Paddock Wood, Fort Wayne, Indiana, USA. 4 years old. 4 years old. July 15th, 2022. Cause of death, cocaine and fentanyl poisoning. Disability: epilepsy. Dominic was found unresponsive in his mother's house in a dangerously filthy environment. He was declared dead, and an autopsy revealed he had died from poisoning with cocaine and fentanyl. His mother and her boyfriend were arrested and charged with child neglect. Noah Wood, charged with the neglect of a dependent causing death. Jonathan Mullerville, charged with neglect of a dependent causing death. Adam Cortez, Danville, Pennsylvania, USA, aged 27, July the 21st, 2022. Cause of death: asphyxia, torso compression, disability: special needs, multiple disabilities. Adam died after being restrained. His chest compressed so that he could not take a breath. Police say his parents would restrain him when he had episode, and his father sat on Adam. The death was registered as a homicide and the parents were charged. Neighbors remember Adam as a young man who used to walk around the neighborhood and never bothered anyone. Christine Cortez, charged with neglect of a dependent person and involuntary manslaughter. Richard Cortez, father, charged with neglect of a dependent person and involuntary manslaughter. Eleanora Bernard, Brooklyn, New York, USA, age 77, July the 23rd, 2022. Cause of death: beating. Disability: dementia. Eleanor was getting older and starting to experience memory loss, so she invited a young man to live with her and help her. However, she was beaten to death, and the young man was arrested on suspicion of murder. She had a pet dog named Baby Girl. A fixture of her neighborhood, she was always out looking for someone to chat with. Case status: Andre Hooper, tenant, housemate, charged with murder. Shania Kalakum, Brooklyn, New York, USA, age 26, July the 24th, 2022. Wheelchair user. Cause of death: stabbed. Chanel was stabbed to death. Her brother was arrested on suspicion of having killed her. Her brother, age 17, has been arrested. Teja Sweeney, Changaon, Telangana, India, aged 1, August 1st, 2022. Cause of death: drowning or fall injury. Disability: intellectual disability. Taya Sweeney's mother claimed that a robber had tried to steal her gold necklace, and that when she refused, the robber had thrown the baby into a water stump. Neighbors rushed the child to the hospital, but she was dead on arrival. Police who checked CCTV camera footage say that there was never a robber. And Taya Sweeney's mother threw the baby into the sump herself because she was frustrated that Taya Sweeney's disability was not being cured, and tried the financial burden of caring for her. At the police station, Taya Sweeney's mother allegedly confessed to killing her. Prasanna's mother charged with murder. "81-year-old woman, Tu Kwa Wan, Hong Kong, China, aged 81, August 4th, 2022. Cause of death: homicide. Disability: chronic kidney disease. This 81-year-old woman was found dead in her bed. Police saw that the intubation tube had been cut open and arrested her husband on having killed her. Her husband, aged 86, charged with manslaughter. Dhriti Balakrishna, Bengaluru, Karnataka, India, aged 4, August 4th, 2022. Cause of death: fall. Disability: autism, intellectual disability, hearing loss. Dhriti died after falling from her 4th-floor balcony. After watching the CCTV footage, police arrested her mother, who was allegedly upset because she had to care for Dhriti instead of working. Susha Bawadar, mother, charged with murder. Ms. Heish, Tuanyan City, Taiwan, aged 3, August the 4th, 2022. Cause of death, head injury. Disability, developmental display, poor balance. When 3-year-old Miss Hesh refused to take her bath, her father beat her and forced her to stand on a stool, which she fell. She died of a brain injury. Her body showed signs of regular beatings. 3 years old. Mr. High's father convicted of child abuse resulting in death, sentenced to 9 years. Patricia Martinez, Bexar County, Texas, USA, aged 57, August the 20th, 2022. Cause of death, kidney failure. Disability, chronic illness, diabetes. Patricia was found in critical condition after allegedly being neglected by her children. She died a few days later in the hospital. Oscar Dominguez, son. Roxana Carrero, daughter. And Pedro Luis Carrero, son. Doesn't look like they have any updates on the status on that one. Barbara Wilshire, Adelaide, South Australia, Australia. Aged 92, August the 24th, 2022. Cause of death, homicide. Disability, disabled elder, declining health. Barbara's husband killed her and himself in a murder-suicide. She and her husband lived in a retirement community. Friends said that her health had been failing over the past few months and her husband had been very distressed. Dennis Wilshire, husband, deceased. Amora Milburn, Cary, North Carolina, age 3, August the 27th, 2022. Cause of death, heat stroke. Disability, chromosome deletion, prematurity, developmental delay, congenital heart disease, feeding difficulty, stroke. Amora's mother allegedly left her and her little sister Trinity in her car parked outside a gambling establishment while she spent 6 hours gaming inside. The sisters died of hypothermia. When their mother returned to find them unresponsive, she reportedly took 30 to 45 minutes to get them to the hospital where they were declared dead. Their mother had previously been investigated by Child Protective Services, who sent social workers to make sure Amora and Trinity were being taken to medical appointments and properly supervised. The family was getting 40 hours of home health services per week for Amora. Anish Shanique Battle, mother, charged with 2 counts of murder. All right, we're going to stop here. Please take a moment to think of these individuals who deserve a hell of a lot better than this. I do appreciate your time. As always, we hope you have a good one. I will see you next video.